Ready?
Everyone's in. You're good to go, Laura.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the September 22nd edition of the St. Lawrence County Chamber's Lunch and Learn webinar series. I am Laura Pearson, Workforce Development Coordinator for the St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce and the Executive Director of the Greater Ogdensburg Chamber of Commerce. This monthly educational webinar series is made possible by the generous support of the St. Lawrence University and Clarkson University, who are leadership circle supporters of the Chamber and make these webinars possible. I would like to thank Executive Director Ben Dixon, who is my tech manager for this webinar. Before I introduce today's presenter, I want to run through a few items. First, your mics have been muted and your webcams have been disabled. But if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to type them into the chat window and we will do our best to answer them. Please note that this session is being recorded for the purposes of broadcasting it on our webinar archive and YouTube channel, which is named SLC Chamber NY. After the presentations are complete, we will stop the recording for any Q&A. We do keep the webinars to under an hour so you can get back to work. If you're interested in presenting, please contact us. This webinar is going to run a little bit differently because Kate is going to do more interaction with you. So you can unmute your mics and participate with Kate when she asks questions. The introduction. Our topic for today is time management. I'm therefore pleased to introduce Kate Chepel-Heff. I hope I said that right. Chepel-Heff? Chepel-Heff, Business Advisor for SciTech Business Solutions. Kate will discuss time management and help us find out if we are good at it and if we have room to improve. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you.
You can start when you're ready.
Okay, so like Laura mentioned, I would like this to be a little bit more interactive. I know it's a lunch and learn and we're probably all trying to eat our lunch right now. So maybe I can catch it in between bites of lunch. But we're going to talk about time management. And I know we've probably talked about time management or we've read tons of books about it and tried different things on it. So I want to put a little bit different spin on it. And so let's talk a little bit about my icebreaker here. So I want to give every one of you $86,400 to spend any way that you want. Okay, so the only guidance that I need to give you on that is that you can't bank any of the money, and if you don't spend it, you're going to lose it. So if you had $86,000, what would you do with it? This is where you guys can unmute and kind of tell me in between your bites, what would you do with it?
I would take my family on a trip. Oh, sorry.
Nope, that's a good one.
I would pay off some debt.
That's another good one.
And maybe redo my living room.
Well, hopefully there's enough to do both.
Yeah, seriously. Yes.
Brooke says she would hire a personal assistant, cleaner, and a chef.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Those are good ideas. Okay. Well, you know, the key thing here is, you know, I'm hoping every one of you guys has a list right now of what you would do with this money. Okay. Because, you know, when we think about it, that's a big number. That's a big amount. It's kind of like winning the lottery, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we look at it though, that $86,400 amount, it kind of has some meaning in time management world. Okay. So there's 86,400 seconds in every day. And so sometimes we need to kind of think about that in more of a money terms, because what are we doing with all that money each day? And it makes us maybe do something a little bit differently. Okay. But if we also think about it, well, we're probably spending about $28,800 potentially on sleeping, about 8 hours of sleeping, eating lunch, dinner, and breakfast probably in there, you know, so now you're left with $47,600. So again, that's still a significant amount to spend every day. We want to make sure we're kind of looking at maybe spending our time the way we spend our money, because a lot of us are pretty frugal, and especially with the way things are right now, we really need to be. And so that's why I want to try to put it in perspective and kind of treat it the same way. So that was my icebreaker component of this. And then, you know, the next piece is, well, how do we know how good we're doing with our time management? Well, if I asked you guys all to find a little corner of your desk there in between your lunch somewhere, put down the last 10 things that you did yesterday at work. What were 10 things that you did at work yesterday? And jot that little list down somewhere on your desk. I know sometimes I have trouble to remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, but hopefully we can at least remember 10 things that we did yesterday. Okay, we got at least 5 of them on the list, maybe. Laura, do you have at least 5 on your list? Okay. So, all right, so that was a pretty good list. It was probably a busy day. All right. So now I want you to take and draw a line or turn the piece of paper over. Okay. And I want you on the other side of your page or next to that list, I would like you to tell me what your top 5 objectives are that you're going to discuss in your performance review at the end of the year. Or if you're a business owner and you're not going to have a performance review, what are those top 5 things that you needed to get done to help improve your business or your business stay there and do what it needs to do? Okay. So now that we have what we actually did yesterday and what we're really going to talk about our key objectives were, or how we're going to get our raises for next year, how many of those things that you worked on yesterday actually relate to those objectives that you have that you're going to talk about at the end of the year? That's really kind of important. And if anybody's sitting there kind of going, maybe one of them did. Okay, we really need to make sure we put that list of objectives somewhere near our computer monitor every day so we can see them. Okay, so we need to make sure that, with time management, it's just not making a list of the things that we need to do. We also need to add some prioritization to that list. And with that, I'm sure you guys have heard the phrase of we need to manage our time with the urgent and important matrix. So with all the things on that list that you have, we need to decide if they're important, which are the activities that are going to help us achieve our goals and make an impact in our world, or were they just urgent? Okay. And you can have urgent and important, but urgent are things that you have to have an immediate attention for. We're firefighting a problem somewhere. Sometimes a lot of these urgent things come up, but they aren't really your objectives. They're somebody else's objectives. Somebody might need help on something, or, this is broken and we all need all hands on deck. So we need to distinguish the difference between, is it important and something that I really need to focus on, or is it just something urgent? And with these urgent things, we tend to run around chasing our tail on a lot of things, but they aren't really hitting that important bucket. Okay, so ideally we want to do the urgent and important, and then make some time to get to the important bucket. So when I look at that matrix, and I just, and I was looking at how do I prioritize things, well, the top right-hand corner of that matrix is the important stuff, but it's not urgent. And that's kind of things like, well, what opportunities can we go after in our business? Or how, are there good training things that I need to maybe take advantage of? And I'm just not paying attention to that yet, but it's a longer term goal. And these are probably higher value and they're more long-term kind of objectives. But a lot of times we push them aside because we have all these more urgent and important things that come up with that firefighting thing. So we're working on things that might be important for the next month versus looking at that bigger picture. How am I going to get that raise at the end of the year? Kind of thing. Okay. But then we also have those other things that fit into this whole ball of wax here, which happens to be the, the urgent but not important stuff. It's like the maintenance things, like I have to turn my computer on every morning and I have to do that login thing where I have to type in 57 letters to get my computer to let me into my email. Okay. But those are the more routine things or the maintenance-y kind of stuff that you have to do every day. Okay. And the urgent and not important stuff, why are we doing those? Those are the extra things, and sometimes we need to look at, well, am I doing anything that's really not important and trivial that I should just stop doing? And that would help free up some time that we work on for things like that. So it's kind of an interesting way to prioritize your things instead of, first priority, second priority. Is it really helping me in my long-term goals, or is it really not focusing me here? I know I have to do it because it's in a crisis, but where am I falling into this matrix? And then don't worry about those trivial things and figure out if there's a way to unload or not have to worry about those urgent but not important things. How do I minimize those kind of thing? And, and as we're looking at all those things, well, now I've got this list. I need to also look at, well, how come I'm not making progress on that list, and am I wasting my time? Okay. And there's 2 ways that we waste our time so that we aren't focusing on those categories. And a lot of that is because there's a lot of factors that are beyond our control, but there's a lot of factors that are within our control. And so when we think about it, well, what are those beyond our controls and within our controls, so that we can maybe figure out how to deal with them better. Okay, so if I look at things like things that are beyond our control, and this happens probably to every single person here, especially if you have a public interface, is we get a lot of interruptions. The phone rings, we get questions from customers or coworkers, or text messages. That social phone thing is just horrendous with that kind of interruption. We've got computer problems or equipment breakdowns, and trying to just hold and attending unnecessary meetings. Look at your calendar and go, well, how many am I going to that I'm just not really gaining anything out of? Or even better, are we having the same meeting over and over and over again? Let's stop doing that. Let's challenge ourselves and stop doing that, okay? And then, you know, we all have staff shortages, so we're covering for other people. That's a challenge right now for a lot of people. And then we get unplanned work or priority changes. So again, going back to what's that long-term goal? Do we know, everybody agree on it? Everybody know what it is? Or is that long-term goal, that priority changing and bouncing all over the place? Because that's not helping anybody be productive. But those are things that are outside of our control. And we need to make sure we understand that, and maybe find ways that can I put some of these things aside? You know, can I actually mark on my calendar thinking time so that I can take care of stuff? Let me actually block that on my calendar so I can do those things. Okay. But then factors that are really within our control are things like our lack of planning and organization. You know, we fail to set and maintain our priorities, or we lose focus on what we're trying to do, and we jump from this project to that project without completing anything. Okay, we can take a breath and figure out how to stay focused on it and finish it. Like, kind of like, you know, putting that half an hour marker on your calendar, and you turn your phone on silence. I'm just going to do this. Okay, I have control over that component. And again, holding and attending those unnecessary meetings. Should I even be going to them? And if I'm the one running it, why am I holding this meeting? Okay, challenge ourselves to make sure we're doing things that are productive. And then a lot of times we spend too much time on phone calls or emails or the internet or text messaging. If you guys haven't done it yet, turn on your statistics on your phone, and it's going to tell you how much screen time you're using every day. And you'll be shocked at how many hours it is. Now, legitimately, some of that is probably work related, but how much of that is Facebook or Twitter or shopping? Okay, you know, those are all things that are not being productive. We got to figure out how to turn those things up. And it's so easy to get sucked into that. Okay. And again, that's always good, where we can just turn off the sound of your phone and put it away. Okay. And then other times we procrastinate until the project really becomes urgent, and then we feel that pressure, and then we try to get it done. It's like studying the night before the exam. And really what you should be doing is absorbing all the information as you go, so that we can retain it for more than 2 days, okay, to carry it with us. And then, you know, another thing that's within our control, and this is probably a really hard one for all of us on this program today, is we need to make sure we have the ability to say no. It doesn't have to be rudely, it can be very politely, but we're taking on too much stuff. Sometimes we have to say, you know what, I can get to it, but I can't get to it till Friday. Is that going to be okay with you? So you're still offering the assistance, but you're giving them the realistic time frame of, you know what, I can't do it right now. I could do it on Friday. And then probably most people are going to say, you know what, that might be too long. So then they go off and try to figure out how to do it themselves, or find somebody else that can help them. Okay, but we don't have to be rude about saying no. We just have to be more tactful about that. You know, I could take care of it, but I can't do it until next week. All right, or these are the other things that I have to do first. So let me, you know, just so for reality check, because we don't want to prioritize other people's stuff ahead of ours. You know, that shouldn't work that way. And with that not saying no piece, how many things are we doing that maybe one of our coworkers should be doing, and we still continue to do it because it's going to take us maybe a half an hour to train them how to do it, and I don't have a half an hour to do that. All right, but if it takes you 10 minutes a day, you know, there's an hour a week that you could get back of your time by taking the half an hour to train them to do that. Okay, and with that comes trust, but we still need to take that time to do it. And so look at those things, because I've had other people tell me, well, it only takes me 20 minutes a day. Wow, 20 minutes a day, that's huge. And you do the math, even if it was the 10 minutes a day, there's an hour a week, there's 52 weeks in a year. Gosh, you got a whole week of time back by doing this, okay? Look at it from that perspective. And with that, that ability, trying to say no to things, make sure we are delegating to people if we can. It doesn't have to all be on our shoulders. We don't all have to do it all. Okay, we've got other people that can help with those things. So utilize those folks that are out there. And then the last one that is within our control, sometimes we socialize too much. Remember, it used to be the water cooler till everybody started working from home. So now it might be on extra time on a video conference, or, we spend too much time chatting or FaceTiming with people because we're trying to stay social, even though we're limited on our exposure to other people. So we just need to make sure we're gauging our time with that type of stuff. So we need to make sure we're really prioritizing our time. Okay. And that time management is really is more than just managing it. We really need to put that priority on it to make sure we're working on the right tasks. Okay. So we need to make sure that we keep to that priority. I've had times where I've sat down and wrote the list of things to do, and it's a whole page. And then, even though you try to prioritize it, you end up starting on the small stuff because, oh, let me just get the small stuff out of the way. And we never get to the big stuff. Okay, so we need to make sure we put that priority and then stick to the priority. Okay, and a lot of time we're going to have to change our habits or how we do what we do. And when you try to change your habits, you got to do it for at least 11 days. So try to plug 2 working weeks of trying this new technique before you give up on it. Don't just try it for 2 days and go, that didn't work. You got to give it at least a 2-week chance to be able to decide if you're going to like it or not. Okay. And so we really need to make sure we try to experiment with some of these different methods. Just by saying, is it urgent and important, maybe a different way of approaching things for you guys. Okay, well, let's try that for 2 weeks. Okay, and see if it helps us plan and prioritize what we're going to work on. Okay, so with that, I have a video. And let's see if it kicks off here. It should. I might have to move. Hopefully it does. Hold on. And you guys may have seen this before, I don't know. Can you see that? Yep.
Kate, you may need to switch your share screen.
Okay, hold on. Let me hit pause on this. Go back to here. And oh, yep. Share.
There you go.
Okay, perfect.
There you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. We all have this one life to live. A fleeting shadow amongst all that exists in this vast universe. We have the ability to accomplish anything, truly anything, if we use our time wisely. Is this jar full? And is it full now? And how about now? Is the jar full now? Yes. Now, I want you to recognize that this jar represents your life. Golf balls are the important things, your family, your friends, your health, and your passions. The pebbles are the other important things, your car, your job, your home. The sand is everything else. It's just a small stuff. Now, if you put the sand in the jar first, you won't have room for the pebbles or the golf balls. The same is true in life. If you spend all your energy and your time on the small stuff, you won't have time for all the really important things that matter to you. Pay attention to the things that are critical to your happiness. Take care of the golf balls first. the really important things. Set your priorities, because everything else is just some. Yes.
Professor, what does the beer represent?
I'm glad you asked. It goes to show that no matter how full your life may seem to be, there's always room for a couple of beers with a friend.
So I like that analogy. Hold on, I'm going to change my share screen back. I like this analogy a lot, and this people have probably seen this version of this video a couple different times, and it's really is the jar full is the scenario, and the author is from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Okay, we need to make sure we really prioritize our stuff. So I kind of talked a little bit about the important and urgent. Well, this kind of visualizes it a little bit. So the rocks are really those really important components that we need to do, okay, and take care of, but we can't really fit them in if we don't focus on them and figure out how to fit them in first. And again, those pebbles become those urgent and important things that we need to do. And the sand that he put in the jar is more like those not important tasks, but they're still there. So we still need to go get groceries every week, okay? And then finally that water is really that trivial time waster things, and but it still fits in there every day. Okay, and so we just need to make sure we're paying attention. Am I working on the rocks or the pebbles or the sand? And I'm sure when you guys look at your calendar week at the beginning of every year, you're probably going, okay, I've got 3 weeks of vacation and here's where they're going to be. And we put those in first, right? And we mark our calendars for that first right at the beginning of the year. And then we move on, and then we start filling in all the rest of the stuff, because our personal stuff is really important to us. And that's why we work, right? We need to do those same things with our projects though. Where do they fit in and how do I tackle them first? Okay. So it's kind of a really good analogy. And it's that visual kind of sticks with you for a little bit after that. So it's kind of a neat way to look at things. So some things just to keep in mind while we're trying to figure that out. We talked about those things that are in our control and out of our control. We have control over some of these, so we need to manage them. So set our time limits, okay? Deal with issues on the spot and get it done and taken care of. How many of you guys actually bring in your mail, look through it, and then stick it on the counter, but then have to go back to it at the end of the week, and now you got a big giant stack that you got to weed through to take care of what you need to do, okay? When you go through that mail the first time, touch it once, throw out what you want to throw out now, and just do it every day. And then look at how much time you just saved at the end of the week, because I did it now in little tiny steps instead of waiting to tackle the big momentous, I don't want to get through that. So deal with those issues on the spot, set our limits on what we want to, how we're going to handle things with interruptions. And then when we're done with stuff, stand up. If we're in our office and somebody's talking to us, stand up, let them know we're done, and we're going to move on to something else. Okay, use your body language to tell people those things. Okay, and make sure we follow up and conclude our conversations, and we can do that firmly and politely without being rude about it, but we can make sure we're sending that message we're done, so that we can get on to the next thing in our world. Okay, and that again, I want to come back to this learn to say no piece, because that one's really the hardest for most people. You've got all kinds of stuff that pull at us all the time. We want to make sure we're just very clear about what we want to do and what we don't want to do. And we're making sure we're communicating that with other people. Okay, so evaluate the request, figure out if it fits into your priority or not, and then tactfully accept it or reject it. And do it there. We'll say, well, I'll have to get back to you. Nope, just if you already know you're not going to do it, just tell them right then and there. Okay, because then it doesn't weigh on you, and then you have to follow up, and that all takes time. Okay, so we want to trade that satisfaction, trade that feeling of guilt for feeling of satisfaction. I got it done. I don't have to do this because I did this. Okay, so we want to not feel guilty about doing that type of thing. And then we also need to make sure we figure out, how do I handle emergencies that come up? Because in some places we're still doing a lot of firefighting. So we need to make sure we stop trying to drop everything to run to that emergency and spend as much time as necessary to solve that problem. But we don't need to spend more time than that to solve the problem. Okay. And then we also really should look at the root cause. What caused that emergency to happen? Why are we in this situation right now? Okay. And how do I fix it? so that it doesn't happen again, right? That's kind of a big piece of of making sure it doesn't happen again. Otherwise, there's probably a bunch of stuff. If you wrote down all those things you fire fought today, and then you wrote down the same list tomorrow, and then you looked at it, there's probably things that are repeats on here, and they might be really, really simple fixes. How do I grab onto those things? And that might become some of your priority items of how do I make this stop so that, I'm not a big firefighter person. I don't like to live in the world of drama and chaos. I like to be in the nice, calm, cool, collected kind of role. So we need to make sure we figure out how to get ourselves moved from chaos to that more calm, cool, and collective kind of atmosphere. Okay. So I crammed a ton of information in my 30 minutes here so that we have time for questions and everything. But I just wanted to make sure you guys had 3 different perspectives on how to handle some time management things. And the first one was turn it into money. Can I relate it into the money factor? And the second one is make sure when you do your priority list or your things to do list, you also prioritize it. Is it important or is it urgent? Is it urgent and important or is it trivial? And put those, classify them so that you can make sure you're making good decisions on what I'm going to work on first. And then I just wanted to give you that visual on time management, because I think when we sit down and think about that jar of rocks and maybe you get your own jar of rocks and sand and pebbles that you put on the corner of your desk somewhere so that can remind you that I really need to work on the big rocks first. Okay. And focus on that. And, from a personal side of things, I'm going to tell you it's easier when I've planned vacations 5 years out because I want to make sure I'm going to go do something really cool. And sometimes when you figure that out and I wanted to do it this year, well, I can't fit it in here, or I can't do it in this time frame because I only have 4 days. Sometimes you do need to plan them out much further. So, I'm going to go take 2 weeks and go do this, and let me plan it out. And everybody else knows all ahead of time, this is what we're doing. Sometimes you need to do it to that extent to be able to get some things done. And that can happen with your business priorities. All right, we're going to do this at the beginning of this year, and next year we're going to tackle this thing. Lay that bigger plan out. So I'm going to open it up for questions, or how are you guys handling it? I also have a questionnaire that Laura is going to send out to everybody, and it's going to be able to give you your own personal assessment of how well you're doing your own time management. And that way there you can take that quiz, and it'll also give you, when you score it, it's going to give you some guidance on where you're fitting in for being good at time management or not, so that you can kind of get a feel of, okay, is there room for improvement, or where should I be focusing on that? So that's another piece that you're going to get after this class.
Okay, so
Kate.
you want to go ahead, Ben?
Yeah, I was just going to mention to people the ways that they can take Q&A here, because there's a few options. One, if you would like to just type something into the chat to us, we can relay the question for you, or you may raise your hand using your reactions function and speak up by unmuting yourself and chiming in with your question or comment or idea. And Laura, if you're good, I'd like to throw one out there myself.
Okay. Do you want me
Okay.
to stop the recording first, or do
I
you
think
want to just leave it?
let's let it roll.
Okay. Sounds good.
So an interesting thing, I've actually seen following up on the jar of golf balls and pebbles and sand and water or beer. I have actually seen this put to use using your calendar, where basically your calendar is that jar.
Oh, nice.
And you go in at the beginning of your week, take that first hour of your week to plan your week, put your golf balls into the calendar, block off, here's an hour, maybe each golf ball is an hour, and you put it in there. This hour is going to be for, X task, and this is going to be for Y task, and this is going to be for Z task. And then the pebbles and sand can fill in the rest of your calendar. And the way I've heard that referred to when you do that kind of planning at the beginning of the week is 39 plus 1 is greater than 40. where an hour of planning plus 39 hours of work, you'll get more work done than you do in 40 hours of work. So that's
Absolutely.
one that I picked up it as sort of a visual implementation of the pebbles, golf balls, sand visual that you put in. So there you go.
And we do tend to be more effective if we do sit down and plan the whole week versus just planning a day. So there is something to that in addition too. So just don't plan that one day at a time. Lay out that whole week. We tend to get more accomplished by laying that out because we can stick to it and see where we can see that the vision to get this to the end of the week.
Back to you, Laura.
I like to brain dump on Friday nights, Friday evenings before I leave, look at my calendar for the week coming up, and then write my to-do list out before I leave for the weekend. Because then it gets it out of my head and I'm not focused on it all weekend long. Oh man, I forgot to do this. Oh, I forgot to do this. And then I can plan a little bit easier.
And we tend to sit down on Monday morning and write the list of what we have to do, and we forget a ton of things that
Yep.
need to be on that list.
Yep.
It's like writing the grocery store list right before you go to the grocery store instead of writing it down as you figure out you're missing things in the kitchen all week long.
Right. I like to text myself notes too. Or if I know I need to go to Walmart, I send myself a text with my Walmart list. So all through the week, I can put stuff on that and I know, because I've always got my phone with me. I've always got my phone in my hand doing something. And then it's easier for me not to write it down and leave it somewhere.
Yep, absolutely.
Any other questions or ideas or suggestions?
Laura, I'll shut off the recording and peek in case people want to.
Okay. So I'll do my